This week we'll be getting right to the heart of the method, really. Because the method is all about living a good life. And one of the important components of living a good life is doing something that you find satisfying. Certainly central to Moshe's interests. But how do you find something that is satisfying to you when there are so many external pressures that distort our decisions and our perceptions of what's going on? I trained as an actor originally, and I remember reading an article by Jean-Louis Barrault about people choosing acting as a reaction rather than as a true expression of a passion. And he described people reacting against their lawyer fathers, and in a way it described where I was at. In a way, the choices I made as an adolescent were really formed by my rejection of what I saw in the way the world was organized. And in a way, I was responding to groupthink rather than really tuning in and finding what it was that I wanted. And of course, everything that I did, it's all led me up to here, to being with you. So it was great. But how do we actually sense what is there? Because as I mentioned in my email, I think we really do need a new story, humanity, or we're going to wipe ourselves out along with everyone else. But how do we find that? Well, certainly through our senses, we can feel what's going on. When you close your eyes and cover them and there's no light in there, we still have all these colored lights and shapes that move across our eyes, and they're an expression of brain activity. And our thoughts racing around, our internal dialogue, making this inner commentary on everything that we experience. Well, that's another form of one of these filters. It's the particular filters that we've taken on, the mask that we've taken on, that it can be heard in the internal dialogue and can be felt in the way we actually respond to that internal dialogue. So learning to calm that, to make yourself as peaceful as possible, and then to just observe things that are there, is a really essential skill. And really, I think it's at the heart of good writing. Because otherwise, the tendency is just to use stock standard phrases. But if you can perceive something and write directly from your experience, then it has some form of magic to it. Something that feels living and alive. So we're going to look today at the fingers and toes, in particular the eyes, but all the senses, how the senses work together. And the more deeply we can immerse ourselves into what we're sensing, the greater the possibility that we'll be able to channel that experience into something that we express, something that we write, or whatever it is that we do, in the way that we're writing our life, creating our own personal narrative. So maybe we'll just look at I'll remind you of the eyes. I'll just share my screen for a minute. So now we're looking at the skin with most of the skeleton taken out. From the inside of the body here we can see the base of the neck, the sternal notch there, the base of the rib cage there, the sternum. Here's the top of the rib cage up here. The two holes in the skin where the arms extend through. And then up here we have the sphenoid bone and the occipital bone and these two holes, these two little condyles that sit into the top vertebra here. And the sphenoid bone is the back of the eyes. So we can see right down from inside the torso through the, that channel that I spoke about last week from the pelvic floor, right through the interior of the body, through the diamond shape of the pelvis, the diamond shape of the shoulder girdle, into the tube of the neck. And that tube extends right up the back of the throat to just below the eyes at the sphenoid bone here. So it's interesting to consider the eyes, they're globes, they're balls, how far back they come. If we look from here, maybe I'll add the nervous system. Whoops. Well, there we can see how far back the eyeball goes by coming back to here. Its relationship to the ears and the nose, and the volume inside the body, inside the viscera here. If I remove the eyeball, and then we can see the optic nerve here. So that comes right through this hole in the sphenoid bone here. Oops, I'm going to get rid of the brain. Sorry, to be complicated once I've added the nervous system, I've added the whole nervous system. But it goes right through the, through the back of the sphenoid bone here, and then it crosses over, and most of the visual cortex is here in the back of the head. But it's this sense of the tubes. The eyes have this volume. Let's just look at the eyes. And really the retina of the eye is like brain tissue. The retina comes right around the inside of the eye here, right around to the ciliary muscles here that control the iris here, the aperture. That means that light can pass in from oblique angles, because remember that the lens is curved, so it can come in and from an oblique angle and touch the very sides of the retina here. And the thing is that the eye is filled with fluid. In the front you have the cornea here, and that has the lens over the front there, the little part, if you touch your eyes, that you can feel bulging out, and that's filled with fluid. I think it's called the aqueous humor. And in the back here, you have the vitreous humor. And it's heavily vascularized. Whoops. And in the back here we have the macula, this part where the optic nerve gathers together. So we don't see from that point, but the brain just makes it up, fills in the gap and makes our vision continuous. But the thing is, it's a ball. It's surrounded by muscles within here, these incredibly delicate muscles in here that alter the shape of the iris here, so it can let more light in or close it up. And then we have these muscles on the outside that control the way we move it. We have one north, south, east and west. This is the left eye. that can pull it in either of those directions. Then we have two muscles, one that attaches up here to the side, to the inside of the eye, here near the nose. This is the left eye, and then another one here that connects here and is joined by this little loop in here. And everything pulls back to the back of the socket here and rotates in this way. And we're able to move the eye in the most incredibly delicate way. They're the most second most sensitive muscles in the body, just after the muscles of the top of the skull here, top of the head and neck, I should say. So if you look at, in fact, I'll do it after. But whatever movements we make with our body, our eyes make this adjustment as well, so that they keep stable, they keep still, no matter what we're doing, and that keeps the vision still, because we can only move as quickly through a room crowded with objects as we can keep our head and our eyes still, because otherwise, if everything goes blurry, we'll bump into things. So it's an incredibly sophisticated mechanism, and we are so visual, probably since the advent of print, given that vision really doesn't come into play until we're 2 weeks old, whereas our hearing is functioning from when we're, still within the womb. It's an incredibly dominant sense in our culture. And, often if we squash the eye, we squash our visual field. When we're tensed, when we're stressed, we'll narrow our focus, and we stop using these parts, or stop taking using our peripheral vision. But if we can open our visual field, sense our peripheral vision, it makes us much more relaxed, much more organized. And how we influence our eyes, whether we squash them up, whether we're narrowing them, it influences not just the way we read, but how we use our arms, our sense of the space around us, and how confident we feel to move within there. The ability someone throws a ball and you just reach up and catch it. You can feel where it is. We see that with our peripheral vision, and vision actually is more complex. There's different parts of the brain that will relate to different parts of vision. So there's one thing to see things, to recognize as an object. There's another part of the brain which will give it a name. There's another part which will position it in space. So you have that thing in Treasure Island where Blind Pete, one of the characters, a blind man, comes into the room with his stick and then presses a bit of paper with a black dot in it into someone's hand, and then darts out of the room. It's probably maybe been blind, visually not able to see things, but the part of his brain that was influencing the way he was sensing space was still intact. So it's this sense of space within the body. Just to remind you of this shape, this diamond shape of the hips and the pelvic girdle, and the shoulder girdle out to the side, and here, this diamond shape, and then the roundness of the torso. And, we sense things with our eyes and with with all the senses, but it's really when we hold them, when we touch them, that we understand. We don't really know a place until we stand there, feeling it with our feet. And that's really what I'd like to explore today, the openness of the the visual field, the openness and the link between the hands and the feet. And how that's a good canvas to explore the internal dialogue and the perceptions that we have that often are just limitations based on, well, a flat earth view of the world. And goodness knows we need a three-dimensional one. So we will need a little bit of wall for this class today. And it may be handy for one part to have a cushion. We'll roll a little bit on the wall, but on the floor. But otherwise, could you come down near the wall with your head toward the wall, but your hands far enough away that you're not actually going to touch it if you reach out behind you. Just see. Yeah, good. In fact, while you do that, I'm just going to change the batteries in my microphone. I think they're running out. That's better. I'm using rechargeables. They don't last nearly as long, but much, much better. So, So lie here on the floor, near a wall, with your head toward the wall and far enough away that you could extend your arms above your head and not touch the wall. Have your arms out at shoulder height, palms up. And sense the volume of your body. And the way you move as you breathe. That sense of the space of your interior. Perhaps it's like a cloud. Clouds are moving. And notice that the sensations within you are moving. And everything is being drawn down into the center of the earth. Your hands and your feet, your head, and your pelvis. And sense your eyes. The two globes of your eyes sitting within the sockets. Are they still? And is there a difference between each eye in sensation? And if it's easier to feel the front or the back of the eyes, or one side, and even with your eyes closed, notice the extent of your visual field. And the clarity of that visual field in all directions. Above you or below, to the left side. And now, could you move your closed eyes from side to side, slowly? Move to the side as you breathe out, and come back to the middle as you breathe in. And don't worry if that's hard, or if your eyes seem too jerky to follow your breath. Just have that as a target, something that you're moving toward. Moving your eyes as slowly as your peaceful breath. And if you do feel that, some parts of your eyes seem a little squashed, are harder to sense, is there a similar place in your body? So if the back of the left eye was not so easy to sense, maybe the back left side of your body or some part of your body may be more hazy. Well, don't work to correct it. Just notice that sense of your eyes and how smoothly you could move them. And as you look over to the right, could you extend the fingers to the right? Just the fingers, so you curl the fingers on the left hand and you extend the fingers on the right hand. And then when you come back to the middle, both sets of fingers relax. When you look over to the left with your closed eyes, your fingers bend a little toward the left or extend to the left. But your hand, the rest of the hand and the arm, they remain peaceful. It's just the eyes and the fingers. And just as your eyes are filled with fluid, your hands are tubes. The fingers are tubes filled with things, but tubes. Sense the space within the tube of each finger, each arm, and your torso as you're moving your eyes side to side. And of course, moving with your breath may make that easier. You know, it's almost like you're passing something from one tube through to the other. From one set of fingers through the hand and the forearm and arm, through the chest and out through the other arm to the other fingers. And of course, what we sense with the fingers and the eyes is informed by what we hear and what we taste and what we smell. Well, leave that for a moment, just rest there. Feeling in your eyes. Notice your ears. Where are they relative to your eyes? And your nose and tongue. Sense the smell in the air. And the taste within your mouth. The feeling within your body. Now begin to look up and down with your eyes. Notice how they move in this direction. Is there more of a difference in the way each eye moves here? You know, if one eye is different, is it the same with your legs when you're looking up and down? And if one eye seems clearer, does one leg seem clearer or more relaxed? Well, as you're moving your eyes with your breath, move your toes. You move your eyes down as you breathe out. Let everything, and the toes, and let everything relax as the eyes come back to the middle. And then you breathe out again as you look up, lifting the toes. Let the eyes come back to the middle as you breathe in. So when you breathe in, it's like relaxing. So bring your eyes back to the center in order to relax. Your toes back to the center in order to relax. And the 10 toes. Sense each of them moving. In fact, only move the big toes as far as the little toes are moving. So that you could sense the full width of your foot. The full width of your eyes. And of course, as you're moving your toes like this, you can sense that right through the foot to the heel. And the length of the foot is equivalent to the depth of your body. So, consider the space between the toes and the heel and the balls of the feet and the heels, up through the legs, through the pelvis, through the torso and the rib cage, into your neck, and right up into the back of the neck, up to the nose, the base of the eyes. As you're moving your eyes and your toes, sense the full depth of your body. Moving as you're breathing. It's that thing. Leave that for a moment. Just rest there. The sense of volume in your eyes. Was that easier to sense when you connected more with the volume of your torso? Well, move your eyes around in a circle, around in an easy circle. In harmony with your breath. And notice, whether you want to force it and, force it to make it round, use more effort in some parts. Really use less effort. Just notice the quality of the circle that you can make. And try to make it smooth. And now move the fingers and toes in a circle. Now this is going to be a tiny circle. Tiny circle to just move the fingers and toes in a circle without the hand. Following the eyes. And of course, to make it easier, you make it smaller and slower. So that you could feel all of the fingers and all of the toes rather than just the ones that are more familiar. And that you could spread your attention. So you sense the full width and depth of each eye. You know, the ring of the iris, that's round. And now leave that. Consider the shape of the cornea, the front part of the eye, the little bump that presses on the eyelids. You can move your eyes side to side once again and sense the way the cornea moves over both eyelids. And notice the shapes of the palms of your hands. They're an arch. Are they similar to the shape of the cornea? And the insteps of the feet, you know, if the feet were together, don't put them together, but just if they were, would that be the shape of the cornea? Well, take your hands and place them over your eyes. Place your hands over your eyes. Your fingers are on your forehead, your elbows are, in above your chest, wherever they're comfortable. And notice that blackness now when you block out the light. Allow everything to relax. And notice there may be colored lights or shapes moving within that blackness. That relates to brain activity. All the thoughts, the random thoughts and feelings that we have that we're not even conscious of. the filters to our experience. The more peaceful we become, the more black this space is. Well, move your eyes around in a circle here, slowly. You can probably sense the cornea of the eye moving relative to the arch in the hand. Notice the shapes of the arches as you relax your arms and shoulders. The shapes of the eyeballs. And then leave that. Let your arms down by your side. Notice the wash of color again as you remove your eyes. Could you roll your pelvis in a small circle? Roll it round on the floor as if it were a coin, a round disc. The middle of your body, halfway between your feet and your head. And notice as you're doing this, what is happening in your eyes? Are they tightening? As you soften your eyes, how does that influence the way you roll your pelvis? And of course, as you're rolling your pelvis, well, the rest of your body is moving too, due to moving the spine. So notice, the way your rib cage can move and your head as you're rolling your pelvis in a circle. Allow everything to be soft so that your rib cage and your head can roll. And it's a small movement, but you can feel the way the skeleton is sliding about within the suit of skin. And not just through your pelvis and your chest and your head, but out through your shoulder girdle and arms to your hands. Through the pelvic girdle and legs to your feet. Now move your pelvis and your eyes in a circle. together. A tiny circle. And stop whenever you need to make it more peaceful. And in fact, take your hands and once again place them over your eyes. Fingers on the forehead, so you're blocking out the light. Let your arms relax. Notice the volume of your eyes. And now once again, begin moving your eyes and your pelvis in a circle. Allowing the rest of your body to move. Do your eyes move with your pelvis, or do they move at a different time? Perhaps they're looking up when your pelvis is rolling down. It doesn't really matter which way they go. It's more, can you allow the circle to be round and the movement to be easy? And if you sense the width of the hand and foot, the 10 fingers and the 10 toes, the arches of the hands and the feet, and the arches of the cornea. Maybe it's possible to sense the full width and depth of your visual field in a peaceful, relaxed way. If you use force, it stops you sensing. You're spending effort doing things. Make this movement soft enough that you can be receptive, both to what you sense within the visual field and within yourself. You can change direction. And then leave that. Let your arms down by your side or wherever is comfortable and rest. Or sense the ground on which you lie. and the air in the room. What if the ground on which you lie was a magical character that could speak to you? Maybe not with language, but as we use it, but some other language that we interpret with all our senses. Within the space of our body, within the space of our eyes. And could you lift your arms and legs into the air, or the knees and elbows into the air, so the hands and the feet can hang, so that you could sense the 10 fingers and toes and the space within your body, the space within your eyes, and begin to roll side to side slowly. You know, as if you were a shifting cloud, but a cloud that was receptive to the air around you and also to the ground. And if the ground was speaking to you, you know that this cloud within you could understand. And you can extend your arms and legs as you need, you know, in the same way that an undulating, rolling cloud extends itself. And each part of yourself that touches the floor, you know, maybe that can sense things in a different way. And then roll onto your stomach. And well, you could take your cushion or whatever you have and place your hands over your eyes and lie with your elbows under your chest. And your hands on your eyes. And just listen here. The blackness of your eyes, the visual field. The weight of your skeleton. Falling into the center of the earth. The feeling within you. How you listen to what the floor may be telling you. And you could roll your pelvis and your eyes in a circle here. In a way that makes it easy to sense where you are.
as if rolling your pelvis in this smooth circle and moving your eyes in this smooth circle. Enabled you to pay more carefully, or pay attention more carefully to where you are. And then leave that and roll onto your back. And could you once again roll your pelvis and your eyes in a circle? Arms are just out to the side wherever they're comfortable, palms up. And notice the shape of the back of the eye. You know, the roundness of the ball of the eye. You know, is that similar to the cornea? Well, it has the optic nerve at the back, but just, think of the shape, how it rolls. And notice the shape of the back of your pelvis, how it rolls on the ground. Because it has this arc as well too, doesn't it? In fact, there are these arches all over the back of the rib cage, as you're rolling your pelvis and your eyes. It has an arch shape too, doesn't it? Of course, the shoulder blades, and the shoulder girdle hangs down, so maybe that makes you feel your rib cage is flatter. But the ribs, they curve out to the side and around, like the back of the head. And the heels. And of course, as the back of your eyes rolls around within the sockets of your skull, and as your head, chest and pelvis and heels roll in this circle, the front of your body is still receptive to light. Think right around the irises now, the round shape of each iris, and think of light entering the irises from all angles. You can imagine a large eye inside the head, just one eye inside the head, one inside the rib cage and one inside the pelvis. Rolling in this circle on the floor, receiving light. Maybe you could make the hand and each foot an eye. You know, the back of the hand is an arch, isn't it? It's round like the back of the eye. And then leave that, rest there for a moment. Just move the fingers and toes ever so slightly. As if they too were eyes, the tips of the fingers. Or held within them some sort of visual sense. And could you extend your arms up? And then above the head toward the wall behind you. Not so that you touch the wall, but just to feel, and if you did touch the wall, which finger would touch? And see that with your eyes, your closed eyes. And in fact, lift the feet, lift the knees, stand the feet on the floor so that you could feel the toes on the floor. And reach toward the wall, and you could move yourself a little bit closer so that now you could actually touch the wall with your fingertips. So touch the wall with your fingertips. Just rest your arms there. And consider what the wall could be telling you if it was a character in a story, a living house. And your toes on the floor. Listen to what they tell you. And now move your fingers on the wall in a way that you could listen, to pay particular attention to the textures, flatness of the wall. Could come a little closer so that you could have more of your palm on the wall, but as you're moving your hands on the wall, notice what you see with your closed eyes. You could roll as you're touching the wall to explore more of the wall peacefully. You know, so your feet are on the floor, touching the floor, and your hands are touching the wall. And your body is like a cloud that rolls. That can process all of this information. You could swivel yourself around so that you could place your feet on the wall. Have your feet on the wall. Just lie there now with your feet up on the wall and your hands palms down on the floor. And just move your toes and your fingers on the wall and floor. Sensing the width of the foot and the width of the hands. The width of your eyes. And then leave your feet against the wall, just hanging there. Soles of the feet on the wall. And then once again, roll your pelvis and your eyes in a circle. Allowing everything to be soft. Your eyes receptive. The roundness of your eyes, the roundness of the back of your pelvis, rib cage and head. You could place your hands over your eyes once again. Notice the ways you move the eyes around. You know, can you feel the position of the cornea on the palm of the hand, even though you're not touching? Can you sense its presence? And then once again, roll. You can extend your legs and your arms and roll over the floor, listening with your eyes and all the senses to what is here, to what you're rolling on. To what is happening in your life. the roundness of your body and the roundness of your eyes. You know how you can move the tubes of your body from your fingers and toes right through to the head, neck and torso. The roundness of your eyes right down to the roundness of every cell. And the flow of your precious life within your body. And then lie there on your back. And rest. There are so many stories that are written with a hero that embarks on a long journey in order to find some treasure for some reason. And often they end up returning right to where they started. And the treasure was there all along. So sense where you are. So keeping your eyes closed, could you now roll over onto your side and come up to stand? And as you stand here, allowing all of that roundness to settle, notice the space, both within you and without you. The
extent of your visual field now. And how you're oriented within it. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Sense where you are. And as you shift your weight and begin to walk, sense the treasure of your life. And the story you'd like to write.